Ms. Flynn?
Yes, except that I abstain from the meeting minutes, resolution number 2.
Mrs. Brimante?
Yes to all except 1 and 2. I'm abstaining from those.
Mr. Sockel?
I say yes to all except abstaining to item number 1.
Mr. Reddy?
Abstain number 3 and 4. Yes to everyone else, to everything else, and congratulations to those that have been approved tonight.
Mrs. Amorati?
Yes.
Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Quick question, this is from Schroeder. Are the abstentions, are they based on, is the attendance at the executive sessions? Okay, are there any eligibility issues for anybody else, including myself in any of these? Or is everyone else eligible?
Yeah, I think everyone else is
Okay,
eligible.
yes.
Mr. Foster?
Yes, abstaining from 3 and 4.
Motion passes.
Yes, we can. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to take, Dr. McGarry is going to take a moment to introduce us to our new administrators that we just approved. So first I'll say thank you, welcome, and take it away.
So I would like to start by introducing our new and brand new position in the district, our P to 3, that's preschool through 3rd grade supervisor of instruction, Rebecca Fittipaldi, who's joining us from Highland Park Schools, where she currently serves as the K through 12 humanities supervisor. Rebecca. Welcome. Going on from there, I would like to introduce Emily Wright, who is joining us in a new position as Supervisor of Special Education, working with our classroom teachers on best practices in instruction, K through 12, and working collaboratively with Ms. Gill and with Dr. Seeley to make sure that all of our curriculum going forward is always mindful of all students in our district. So we'd like to welcome her. She's currently at South Brunswick High School, and she has been a transition coordinator there and has been a special education teacher at both the high school and elementary level. And this year she's doing such a great job that the superintendent there tapped her to fill in as an interim supervisor at South Brunswick High School. So we're really pleased to have her joining our staff too. So welcome, Emily Wright. And then finally, I'd like to actually invite both of you to stand up. Jennifer Rickey and Jamie Brown, who will be joining us as our new assistant principals at Holmdel High School. And Mr. Scalacci is smiling from ear to ear, anxiously awaiting. I think Mr. Brown is going to be starting with us tomorrow. But let me introduce each of them. Jennifer Rickey is currently the supervisor of student activities at Somerville High School, where we had a playoff game where the band came. It was a very cold afternoon, as I recall. She currently, as I said, is a supervisor of student activities, where she is in charge of discipline for 1,200 students at Somerville High School, has extensive background also in curriculum, and will be joining us to serve in the dual role of assistant principal, as well as supervising our visual and performing arts program, K through 12. So welcome to Jennifer. And Jamie Brown is joining us from Old Bridge High School, where he has been the Dean of Discipline for the most recent years. He's a former English teacher at Old Bridge, has spent his whole career at Old Bridge, so this will be a big change for him. I'm not sure, the colors there are purple and black. So like Jennifer, I'm sure he's going to be investing in so much more Holmdel blue. I think actually we even have some swag for them already. And so he's been a former English teacher, Dean of Discipline, and really active involved with character education and social emotional learning throughout the Old Bridge schools, not just at the high school, but really connecting middle and high school. And so he's going to be joining us as assistant principal, but also looking at oversight of our co-curricular activities, grades 7 through 12, such as pep band. So welcome, Jamie. Thank you.
All right, resolution number 18, Brian, can you take a
Certainly.
crack at that?
Acceptance of non-monetary donations from the Holmdel Creative Arts Association. Resolved that the board accept with gratitude a non-monetary donation from the Holmdel Creative Arts Association, value not to exceed $4,334.05 for the following. 1, animated literacy books for Village School, value $470.41. 1, graphic novel material set for Indian School. 1, boomwhacker set for Indian Hill School. 3, iPads. 1 Bose speaker package, and 1 Powtoons membership as well for Indian Hill School for $3,473.92. Lastly, 3 light pads and light box for the WR SAT School, valued $389.72.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
Move.
Discussion? Have a roll call, please.
Ms. Flynn?
Yes, thank you so much.
Mrs. Bramante?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Sokol?
Doesn't take a lot of creativity to say yes to this one. Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Mrs. Amorati?
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Collins?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mr. Foster?
Yes, thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 19, Mr. Sokol, can you please read that?
I'd be pleased to. Acceptance of a non-monetary donation from the Indian Hill School Parent Liaison Group. Resolved that the board accept with gratitude a non-monetary donation from the Indian Hill Parent Liaison Group, value not to exceed $15,000 to upgrade the Indian Hill School stage audio system.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Flynn?
Yes, thank you so much.
Mrs. Bramante?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Mrs. Amorati?
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Collins?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Wall?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Foster?
Yes, thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 20, Eileen, can you please read that?
Acceptance of a non-monetary donation from Holmdel Youth Activities Association. Resolved that the board accept with gratitude a non-monetary donation from HYAA valued at $7,300 for a basketball scoreboard, including installation and removal for the Indian Hill School main gym.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, just a quick question.
Yes.
Is this connected in any way with renovation work going on at Indian Hill? I mean, in other words, is this one of the gyms that we're working on? It's just independent? Okay, cool.
It's been an item though for a while that we've been waiting patiently. And the HYA, thank you again for, I was gonna say it at the end, but thank you for jumping in and getting this done for us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I think this is a really good one, coaching a ton of basketball teams over the years. You have 2 scoreboards in there now, and they've been up there for forever. And neither of them work. A couple of years ago, we lost the gizmo that created one of the scoreboards. So this is a great thing, because normally you would have to actually look around over there to see what the score might be and how many minutes left. And now other teams always get confused, and it's sort of a little embarrassing because you see 2 scoreboards up there. So this is for the kids that are playing. So for Brian, your kids, Vicky, your kids, that's awesome. I mean, this is a really, really good.
I mean, I second Peter's point, because I also used to coach youth basketball back there, and it was a challenge. You had enough trouble keeping track of the kids. You have to try and keep track of where the score is. I don't know who we're winning. Maybe.
Can't see the scoreboard.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Flynn?
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Bramante?
Yes, thank you very much.
Mr. Sokol?
Thank you. Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Amorati?
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Collins?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Wall?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Foster?
Yes, thank you, fellas.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Mrs. Amorati, can you please read resolution number 21?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Acceptance of a monetary donation from the Holmdel Foundation of Education Excellence. Resolved that the board accept with gratitude a monetary donation from the HFEE of $9,645 to be used to purchase additional equipment for the new village school playground.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
Move.
Second. Discussion? Seeing none, can I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Flynn,
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Brimo,
Yes.
Mr. Saul,
Yes.
Mr. Reddick,
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Amorado,
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Collins,
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Wall,
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Foster.
Yes, thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you.
At this point in the meeting, we are doing old business, and one of the things I tried to get this expressed during committee, but one of the things that we tried to accomplish this month, in which we did, was meet with the township officials regarding our Class 3 agreement. As you all recall, that agreement that we executed last year, that shared services agreement, provides that we were to meet this year, each year of the agreement, determine the agreement, to discuss ways in which the township can help contribute towards that fee, because as you all know, we presently are providing and budgeting that cost every year for purposes of staffing the Class 3 officers, which has been received positively by our community, by our staff, by administrators, by the board. I think you all agree the Class 3 agreement and the Class 3 officers has been a great project that we got up and running last year. But it comes at a significant cost that we did have to carefully budget for, and which we have. And the agreement that we entered into the township allowed them and mandated that each year we meet and we discuss ways in which they can help share this. And I've taken the direction from all of you, I think unanimously have expressed to me the need to continue those discussions. So we did meet, and I was informed that while they couldn't provide, that the township is not in a position to contribute any additional money this year towards those costs. So we will have to continue to maintain those costs going forward. So I wanted to make sure the board was aware of that, and any other feedback you'd want me to provide to the township on this issue, because I know some of you had expressed to me that you had wished that the township would maybe use some of the pilot money that they're receiving for this cost, as well as any other way that they can provide and support us with this public safety cost. Does anyone else have any questions?
Can you remind the public of how much money we're talking approximately each year?
It's $300,000 for the Class 3, and we also, next year, are going to be in a position, I'm sure you know, Pete, the SRO agreement is expiring. We did touch upon that as well, and that's another $50,000 cost. And one of the things that we talked about, Dr. McGarry, you know, one of the questions that we say, like, if there's any way you could provide us some relief on this, it would be great, because we could invest that money in something else. And Dr. McGarry was asked, what would those items be, and he was able to identify some of those items. Mr. Truzzo was able to identify some items. So, I really just want to continue to have this conversation. I will continue to explore those conversations with the township. I don't know if you have anything else you would like me to do about this?
Well, I think we just wanted to add one other perspective on this particular issue. I remember when I was first elected onto the school board 9 years ago, that every single member of the township committee, every single member, I'm not even exaggerating this, they came to me and said, do something to keep the taxes down. That was their statement to me. And I was very pleased that as a collective board the following year we were able to pass a budget that had no tax increase. What we're talking about here is really a question of who's going to pay for the security and safety of our schools. Is it going to be residential taxpayers through the school tax, or is it going to be done through a commercial tax? As a community, we have been able to build this school district over time through the relationships that we've had in creating a balance between residential taxes and commercial taxes for over 50 years, or roughly 50 years, because of Bell Labs in particular. We were able to have that type of balance. Now, as you take a look at the pilot program, which is dictating a specific amount of revenue coming from a commercial entity to the town, it seems to make sense that if the township wishes to create that level of balance, that is to utilize a commercial taxpayer to pay an item that everyone in the community is in agreement should be paid, a safety item that is generally the responsibility of the township, and to be able to do it so that you would not have to take that $300,000 to $350,000 out of the monies that we raise from our residential taxpayers. To me, it's a no-brainer. I think it's one of those issues where, as a community, we really need to talk about where should the money be coming from. And from my perspective, it's not really an issue of debating whether the pilot program is a good thing, whether the deal was a good deal, whether it even should exist at all. That's all past history. We just know it exists now, and it goes for over 30 years. So it's reasonable to ask our town fathers to say, why don't you take advantage of a commercial tax levy rather than requiring residents to have to pay this particular fee? So to me, that's how the issue kind of boils down.
Yeah, and hopefully the township will be able to contribute towards, we have officers here for after hours, so hopefully they'll be able to contribute towards that portion, because we do pay for, you know, having a police officer here while there's activities that are going on at the high school. So, and that's something we would like to continue, but as the costs get higher, I don't know, it becomes, we'd have to budget more in order to encumber that cost. Anyone else? Mr.
Yes, briefly, my recommendation would be that the township committee passes an ordinance that shares the pilot revenue with the school district. The redevelopment law, as the folks that are attorneys know, and our attorney knows, the redevelopment law declaring an area in need of rehabilitation or redevelopment area, redevelopment zone, offers the opportunity for municipalities to design pilot programs with potential developers. The developers like to have a stable tax, a stable payment, so they can put that into the performance, so they can extract the value that they may need for the development. Bell Labs, formerly Lucent, Alcatel, what have you, was, I believe it was under the designation, it was functionally obsolescent, even though it was a gorgeous historic building. Functional obsolescence was one of the criteria that were used, among others, to allow a pilot program, which is payment in lieu of taxes, to be designed. Many communities are passing ordinances that are sharing that revenue with the schools. Under the statute, I'm not playing an attorney, but under the statute, the county typically is getting 5%, the schools are getting nothing, and it may range from, say, 10 to 15%, depending on, without getting into the weeds of it, to extract a certain value that's paid. That doesn't mean that the municipality is not allowed to fund what would typically be done to help fund the schools. And there are communities, that I know one, but among others, that specifically as a philosophy were committed to the school district and wanted to set up a program through which they were funding out of that pilot revenue a certain percentage to the schools. Quite a large percentage, actually. So hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, actually, which would make the SRO costs small in comparison. So I think the board went in a different direction with their auditing company. I would suggest recommending tonight, or in the near future, for the board to consider or send it to the proper committee to ask the auditor to go over the calculations, see what an equivalent calculation would have been or would be if and also pull the research, because they're a large company. They can pull the ordinances from other communities that have taken a stance that they were going to properly fund the schools had it not had a pilot program to it. Put those numbers together, get them in front of the township committee, and let them have an opportunity to share their vision that it's one community, and to have an equitable distribution of the pilot funds that helped facilitate what is now known as Bellworks, a successful project that will enable tax stability for many, many years. On the municipal side, it remains one community. So if they share that view that we are one community, then we can help craft an ordinance with the work of our auditor, perhaps partnering with their auditor, so all the numbers are known, they're transparent, and they can introduce that ordinance and they can pass it, and we can have a funding vehicle, not just for this year or next year, or when the SROs are up for renewal or what have you, in perpetuity. Because those pilot programs go on for decades before they convert through statute to a regular, more traditional tax-paying vehicle. So that's a
So
lot.
we should definitely discuss that too, in budget and finance. Like, that would be a very good topic
Yeah,
and task.
so that's,
to
that
have.
would be my recommendation.
Yeah.
Partnering with the township committee so we can work collectively, collaborate.
Yeah, I mean, the township committee is always asked, like, what can we do? And this is like.
Oh, they could pass an ordinance to yeah, they could pass an ordinance. Yeah. Paul, is there anything I'm off on my assessment of the, thank you. That's my recommendation.
Mr. Foster?
While I definitely agree with what Terrence and Michael have said, absent the pilot program, I think what we're talking about and what's been mentioned is that this is a public safety issue, which I believe falls under the purview of the town and their budget, not the Board of Education. That's where I'm not understanding why they aren't chipping in or stepping up.
Anything else? Seeing none, we'll continue the conversation. Thank you. Old business, any other old business items that people want to talk about? New business?
A brief item that I've begun to learn regarding tutoring in Monmouth University, and I don't know what other organizations are doing. They have and I'm learning about it, but since we're at this meeting on a new business, a tutoring center, really. Now here we have the honor students help their peers, and they get hours, they get credit hours and things of that nature. We have instructional time where you can go see your teacher. There's certain periods of time when you can go do that. But I just wanted to throw out a concept that I'm learning about with Monmouth University. But basically, can we establish a tutoring center here in some fashion where students can go to a tutoring center during whatever appropriate times, but that's more available more readily, more quickly, more for an acute issue that can be dealt with immediately. So it's not scheduled of when you're meeting with one of your peers, which some students like doing, and as you may be aware, some students do not like doing. But having an educator, and we'll defer to the superintendent here, but a tutoring center concept. Parents are spending a ferocious amount of money on tutors in certain areas. If we can see where if there's a means or method in funding to have a program where they can go to it at an ad hoc basis, so it's not necessarily tied to when you can fit it in, that it's available at certain hours at certain times in some way. That's what I wanted to mention as a new business item. I'm not sure exactly how it worked, but basically a center that is available during the day.
I just one new business item, and I'm sorry Renee's not here because it's kind of directed to some of the conversation we had earlier this evening. I was just going to suggest, Robert, now that we've added 2 new assistant principals, that this might be a really good opportunity for us to completely re-examine our Schedule B organization. And what I mean by that is, the sense I got from the 2 meetings we've had in connection with the pep band, and it's funny for me because there isn't a person on this board that doesn't want a pep band playing in a football game. I don't think any of us are in that position or being positioned that way. But it does strike in my mind, do we have enough coordination going on with our various Schedule Bs? And can we consolidate some of our Schedule Bs to make more sense? Because, for example, what struck me, and I'm not saying this is a solution, and again, I'm not trying to take, Brian's already eager to use these folks already for a whole bunch of things, so I'm not trying to take away from him on this. But, you know, what struck me when I was listening to this is if the dance team, for example, is driving the utilization of that pep band, it would seem like a more powerful setup if the dance and band were all in one group. Then they're all coordinated, then they all are actively engaged. So I bet, it wouldn't surprise me if we went closely through all of our Schedule Bs. I bet we've got other pockets in which better coordination would make sense, or maybe consolidation or reorganization. So I was just simply saying, you know, you've got a new team in place. They'll have some really good, fresh perspective on this, especially based on the experiences that I was able to read on their resumes. this might be a good opportunity to do that. Thanks.
Anything else? Okay, seeing none. At this point in the meeting, we have questions and comments from the public. Singer?
Barbara Singer, 5 Deerfield Road. Terrence, I just want to add another dimension to what you were just talking about with the tutoring, because this came up at a PTSO meeting about the scheduling, and it's not always working within the kids' schedules to get the tutoring at the school or the honor students. So one of the parents was talking about where our schools have arranged kind of like a FaceTime system. So you have volunteers, it could be adults, it could be the honor students, but they're accessible throughout the day or the evening when the kids are home doing their homework and they're running into
Like a hotline, almost?
Yeah, almost like a hotline, but a face-to-face type thing. So you would just have people with different specialties available who volunteer, to be available at different times, and the kids would be able to access them. And I think the point that I like that parent made was the issues really do come in at home, and parents aren't always able to help the kids tutor them and what they are learning now. So that's kind of what this parent was suggesting. So if that's something you're looking into, I just wanted to put that idea out there.
Thank you.
Can I just say something? I was just reading about, it's funny, you said hotline and Barbara said,
FaceTime.
FaceTime. I just read an article, a school district is doing Hot Time.
Oh my God.
It's called Hot Time, and it's all volunteer high school students who are available at certain times, and these students in the lower grades or in the same grades are hot timing students who are doing the volunteer to FaceTime with these students who need the help. So that might be something.
It's almost.
I thought it was a great, the article was really riveting. It was a great idea, it was really.
It's almost taking it one step further.
It is taking it
when
one
Robert and Brian have the National Honor Society kids here,
Right.
and they push them into math and English and everything else. Here they could be, wherever, it could be remote and,
But the big thing was, like Barbara said, these kids are so involved, they're doing so many things that it's not always readily
Right.
available to them when they need the help at specific times or during, and this was just something that they signed up for different times, they were available. It was a really good idea, I thought, so.
Thank you for
Just
bringing
wanted
that
to
to our
add.
attention. Anything else?
Hi, my name is Rowan Kinsagra and I live at 8 Warren Way, Warren, New Jersey. I'm a recent high school graduate. I just graduated this past June from Washington Hills Regional High School in Warren. And for the past few months, me and a few peers of mine have been working on this project that we call Shared School. So me and my friends, we've noticed, we've all been in public education our entire lives. And one of the things we noticed was that we saw a lot of districts with a lot of surplus materials, whether that be due to curriculum changes or enrollment changes. And then we also saw districts that had not a lot of access to resources, whether it be due to funding or a bunch of other various reasons. And so we had this idea, we were kind of inspired by Airbnb, and we thought we could create this distribution network between public schools to where they could buy, sell, and donate materials between each other. So recently we just finished our first software platform that schools are free to join, where they can do such like buy, sell, and donate materials that they no longer have use for that may be taking up space in their schools. And so now we're reaching out to public schools and looking for them if they're interested in joining our first pilot test and see if we can kind of create this sharing network between schools. We see this as a way of kind of leveling the playing field, so to speak, and giving all the schools like an equal chance. So I'm just here to kind of introduce myself and what we've been doing and see if there's a potential if you guys think there might, if you're interested or anything like that. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but thank you.
Thank you. You could send us information.
Sure.
We have emails on.
Yeah, I'd love to give you the email after.
Okay, thanks. Anything else? Seeing none, at this point, the board needs to go into closed session to discuss personnel matters and student-related matters that are confidential pursuant to law. We will not be, once we come back and open and close, once we close the meeting, we will not be taking any further action. So, ask for a motion to go into closed session.
Move.
Second.
Oh, Ronnie, Can I see a show of hands?